She clung to a mysterious stranger at the party to discover his incredible billionaire secret. Emma's heart raced as she entered the lavish hall, opulence swirling around her like a thick fog. Glistening chandeliers hung like diamonds from the ceiling, casting shimmering reflections across the marble floors. She adjusted the straps of her modest gown, feeling out of place as laughter echoed like a cruel reminder of the world she was trying to navigate. Here she was, a nurse from a modest upbringing, walking into her childhood friend's charity gala, a far cry from the emergency room, yet interwoven with the same urgency. The weight of expectation pulled at her as she scanned the crowd, searching for potential donors to rescue the hospital that was her second home. Everywhere, families, successful and influential, effortlessly mingled, their designer dresses and tailored suits a stark contrast to her frayed edges. She felt their scrutiny as they exchanged pleasantries, a refreshing white wine in hand. Would they understand her struggle to keep the hospital's doors open, or would they view her as another face in the crowd? Laughter and pomp felt suffocatingly hollow. Her phone buzzed with reminders of unpaid bills, unsaid thank yous to the community she cherished. Before she could surrender to despair, her gaze locked with a stranger's across the room. With tousled hair and a simple button-down, Jack appeared distinctly out of place. When their eyes met, a spark ignited within her that set her on edge yet simultaneously soothed her racing thoughts. He approached, and his genuine smile reminded her of moments spent in the hospital's break room, laughter amidst exhaustion. Somehow, she found herself captivated as they began to converse, trading stories that felt both utterly mundane and deeply significant. But then came the moment she dreaded. "I don't like parties much either," Jack said. "That's why I usually just donate from the shadows." Emma's stomach tightened. Each word intensified her apprehension. He was a billionaire, a benefactor wrapped in the charity she desperately needed. What had felt like a breath of fresh air suddenly became a barbed question mark in her mind. Could he truly care about more than status, or was he just another rich man playing the part? She could already feel the judgment brewing in the air, a cacophony of whispers from the society that surrounded them. Before she could articulate her nerves, an announcement boomed from the stage, a corporate takeover poised to endanger the very funding her hospital relied on. Her heart sank with the realization that this represented her deepest fear. She was torn, suddenly aware that her newfound connection with Jack blurred the lines of her commitment to the community she served. What does it mean to feel drawn to a man who might embody everything she had spent her life resentfully resisting? "Emma?" Jack's voice cut through her internal storm, sensing her turmoil. "If there's a chance to help, I want to be part of it. We can make it happen." She froze, the urgency of his words crashing down upon her. What if leaning on him meant compromising her very principles? Her emotions clashed: fear of judgment, desperate hope for her hospital, the conflicting pull towards a man whose wealth felt both alluring and revolting. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack's offer hung like a tantalizing carrot, yet Emma felt a tidal wave of confusion and fear wash over her. She recalled the countless nights spent tending to patients, praying for their health. Was it worth the risk of entangling with him, or would aligning with this enigmatic billionaire mean sacrificing her ideals? His depth, his kindness was mesmerizing, yet that only deepened her anguish. The gala surrounded them, vibrant and dazzling, yet she felt ensnared within a storm of conflicting emotions. Emma stood on the precipice, wrestling with the decision that loomed ominously: to dive into this unexpected connection or to remain steadfast in her mission. The realization struck her like thunder, as the clock ticked down towards midnight. Could embracing Jack's world mean losing herself completely? As the last strains of music played, Emma struggled to confront the reality that by letting Jack into her life, she might ultimately shatter the very foundations she fought to uphold for all those in need. Emma's pulse thudded in her ears as she weighed Jack's words. Hoped. The morning sun filtered through her bedroom curtains, casting a soft glow on the scattered papers that chronicled her countless ideas and plans. Emma sat up, the remnants of a restless night swirling in her mind, each thought tethered to the impending meeting. The awkward dance she had performed last night with Jack weighed heavily on her spirits, a tantalizing blend of opportunity and risk. She slid her feet into her worn hospital slippers, a small reminder of her everyday life, and padded toward the kitchen. As she brewed her coffee, the familiar aroma grounded her, a ritual that fortified her resolve. Yet, alongside the comfort came the gnawing fear of inadequacy. Could she truly meld her idealism with Jack's commercial prowess? Would they build something lasting, or would it collapse like so many dreams left unexamined? After multiple sips, each one a delicate balance of warmth and doubt, Emma felt a change within herself. The act of prioritizing her hospital's needs over her fears had ignited a spark. She pulled out a notepad, drafting a detailed agenda for her meeting with Jack and the board members. With each bullet point, she pushed aside her anxiety, channeling it into determined ambition. They were not just connecting with a billionaire, they were embarking on a mission that could redefine her role in a realm she had long avoided. Once her notes were prepared, Emma meticulously reviewed her presentation. Understanding her audience was crucial, especially in a world that often dismissed the importance of genuine care. She wanted to convey not just the urgency of their plight, but the human stories that lay behind the numbers, the ones that could resonate with Jack's perspective and business acumen. As she dressed, slipping into a tailored blazer that mirrored her newly kindled determination, she caught her reflection. The woman staring back was not merely a nurse, she was a leader on the verge of a pivotal transformation. Today was her chance, and such opportunities demanded not just professionalism but authenticity. She resolved to stay true to her core values, even if stepping into Jack's world felt daunting. Arriving at the meeting space, Emma was greeted by familiar faces, members of her hospital board, each one looking expectant yet uncertain. Jack stood among them, exuding the confident energy that stirred both admiration and trepidation in her. They exchanged polite nods, the underlying tension evident to both. Once seated, Emma took a deep breath, the weight of expectations swirling around her. She stepped forward, her voice clear. Thank you all for being here. We are at a critical crossroads, and it's time to rethink how we ensure that the patients we serve receive the care they deserve. As she spoke, she caught Jack's encouraging glance. With each word, she wove a narrative that captured the essence of their mission, efficiently outlining the dual approach, the necessity for financial support paired with integral involvement from the community. Emma was no longer speaking merely about numbers, she was advocating for lives, for hope, and for a vision that needed to be shared. Yet, as she concluded, a question echoed in her mind. Was this alliance truly pursued with mutual respect, or would it teeter on the edge of manipulation? As Jack took his turn to speak, Emma felt more aware of the thin line they navigated. Emma, your passion is inspiring, Jack began, his voice smooth yet authoritative. But I need us to be on the same page heading forward. We can't just push for involvement, it has to be strategic. I have ideas that could elevate this, but we will have to trust each other completely. Emma's heart raced. His words were laden with implications. Was he suggesting that their visions could naturally align? Or was it a veiled ultimatum cloaked in teamwork? She could sense the stakes had risen, with their next steps as intertwined as their fates. As her mind raced with possible outcomes, she knew this partnership could turn either way, shaping her dreams or unraveling her ideals. The real question lingered. Tantalizingly, would this collaboration strengthen her foundations, or lead her down an unpredictable path, far from who she was meant to be? The atmosphere shifted palpably, decisions hung in the air, each one pivotal for her future. Emma realized she stood at a threshold far beyond operational strategies. This was about who she would become in the relentless pursuit of hope. Emma sat tense in her chair, her heart pounding as Jack's words echoed in her mind. Trust. A simple yet profound notion that had the power to either elevate her plans or completely dismantle her integrity. Her palms felt clammy against the polished surface of the table, a grounding barrier in a sea of uncertainty. As Jack elaborated on his vision, Emma grappled with the duality of her ambition and her responsibility. He painted a picture of growth and innovation, appealing to their mutual desire for change, yet part of her recoiled at the weight of his assumptions. Did he expect her to compromise her ideals for the sake of an agenda? Subconsciously, she began to formulate a response, her mind racing toward implications she wasn't sure she was ready to confront. When Jack finished, a silence lingered. The board members exchanged glances, uncertain how to proceed. Emma seized the moment, her voice gaining strength as she spoke. "Jack, it's imperative that we maintain a focus on the community's needs. Strategic planning must indeed be our foundation, but we must ensure that those strategies don't overshadow our core mission, the care and dignity of our patients." Every eye in the room fixed on her, a mixture of respect and apprehension on their faces. She felt a rush of adrenaline flutter through her, a feeling of power intertwined with vulnerability. Could she truly bridge this pragmatic world of business with the inherent sanctity of healthcare? Each question she posed to Jack was a reflection of her uncertainties, a dilemma twisting within her, begging for resolution. "Agreed, Emma," Jack replied, nodding, though his expression shifted slightly, a telltale sign of his guarded disposition. "But we need to be accountable to our goals and timelines. Passion is inspirational, yet we need results or we risk losing our funding." The tension thickened in the air, and Emma's pulse quickened. She realized that Jack's intention to push for efficiency might come at the cost of emotional connections, the very soul of the service she held dear. Could she navigate this partnership without sacrificing her values? This was a moment that demanded clarity, pushing her to confront the core of her mission more rigorously than ever. Determined not to waver, she pressed on, "I appreciate your insights. However, effective healthcare integrates compassion with innovation. One without the other is simply inadequate." Jack's brow furrowed, a flicker of respect crossing his visage, but his eyes remained steely. "Then let us talk about how you visualize this combination. What practical steps do you propose?" With her heart quickening, Emma launched into a detailed plan that mirrored the community's authentic voices, the patient stories and experiences she had witnessed firsthand. The proposal was bubbling with passion, a lifeblood she poured into every statistic, every heartfelt narrative. She felt herself transform in those moments. It was as if she were peeling back layers of doubt to reveal a resilient leader. Yet, even as she spoke with fervor, a gnawing doubt nestled within her. What if her attempts at maintaining authenticity were overshadowed by Jack's influence? Would he genuinely allow her to mold their vision together, or was he simply playing along to ensure operational efficiency? As she concluded, an air of challenge enveloped the room. The board members exchanged glances that seemed to communicate their thoughts. Was Emma truly equipped to hold her ground against Jack, or would they rally behind his predictions of tactical maneuvering? Clearing her throat, Emma prepared to summarize, aware that the coming moments would likely shape their future. "In conclusion, our collaboration begins with mutual respect for the ethos of our work. If we can unite our passions with the necessity for strategy, we can change the narrative of healthcare." Jack leaned back slightly, studying her. She felt the weight of both his scrutiny and the board's anticipatory silence. Was she being heard, or simply tolerated? As the meeting drew to a close, Emma caught herself holding her breath, her dreams hanging in the balance. Would Jack recognize the depth of her commitment, or would they remain mere partners in business, devoid of the heart that made their goals meaningful? In that charged silence, Emma made a vow of her own to not only excel in her role but to ensure accountability in Jack's approach, navigating this unpredictable alliance with an unwavering moral compass. It was no longer just about compliance, it would be about cultivating a dynamic integrity that defined her legacy. The final flicker of hope rested on her next words, and as the closing remarks began to unfold, she knew the real journey was just beginning. The time had come. Could she truly embody the leader she aspired to be? And in that moment, another realization crushed the remnants of doubt. The future was uncertain, but perhaps the most profound revelations lay beyond her comfort zone, ready to challenge her in ways she had never anticipated. Emma stepped out of the boardroom, her mind swirling with the weight of what had just transpired. The discussions felt like a tightrope walk. One misstep could send her ambitions crashing down. She could still feel Jack's piercing gaze, assessing her every word, challenging her commitment. In the solitude of her office, she let out a shaky breath. The familiar clutter of papers and reports felt both grounding and suffocating. How had it come to this? She thought back to her early days in healthcare. The initial spark of wanting to make a difference had dimmed beneath layers of bureaucracy and expectation. Yet, in that meeting, something inside her had ignited. Determined to build from the tension, Emma engaged in a mental rehearsal of the next steps. What could she do to ensure her vision didn't falter? Her initial thoughts started to polarizing the board even more, aligning each member with clear, compelling benefits of her proposals. She envisioned gathering nuanced data on patient satisfaction, weaving real-life stories into their strategic planning. Patients first, she whispered to herself, clenched fists resting on her desk. She felt a determination surge through her. Days passed, yet Jack's attitude towards her lingered like a specter. In meetings, he sat shoulder to shoulder, playing the partner, yet he remained a constant challenge. She wondered if he viewed her vulnerable moments as weaknesses to exploit. This conflict was not just a professional hurdle, it intruded upon her personal ethos. Emma sought counsel with her trusted confidant, Lisa. The coffee shop's warm ambience felt inviting, creating a perfect cocoon for her thoughts. As they settled in, Emma shared her frustrations, dissecting Jack's ambivalence. What if he's right? She questioned, her voice trembling slightly. What if I'm being too sentimental at a time when we need aggressive tactics? Lisa sipped her coffee, brow furrowed in concentration. Emma, you need to define your own metrics for success. Look beyond the numbers and focus on the culture you want to cultivate. You can drive results without sacrificing your ideals. The word struck Emma like lightning. She could chart a course that would honor her vision while still aligning with Jack's metrics-oriented stance. How could she shape a new narrative that satisfied the board's hunger for strategic growth yet upheld the emotional integrity of patient care? She felt a burgeoning clarity, awareness pooling in her mind, a realization that the tension between her ideals and Jack's approach could be channeled into empowerment. Gradually, a plan began to form. She would initiate weekly strategy sessions framed not just by fiscal goals but also through the lens of patient experience. Emma envisioned bridging the different focuses using data to back compelling stories, substantiating her vision with concrete evidence. Success could be defined in harmony, not opposition. Still, as she left the cafe, new doubts crept in. Could she balance the emotional depth of patient stories with the rigid demands of data analysis? What will Jack's reactions be as she nudged them towards her vision? Emma walked away from the cafe, her thoughts racing, picturing the new direction she would take in her meetings. Each day would be a step closer to cultivating the integrity she had vowed to uphold. But as she reached the threshold of her office, her phone buzzed sharply, breaking her concentration. It was a message from Jack: "We need to discuss your proposal. Can you meet tonight?" Her pulse quickened. Was this a call for collaboration or a confrontation? The path ahead seemed more precarious than ever. Emma took a deep breath, knowing she would be compelled to face Jack once more. In that moment, she understood, the true test of her leadership was not just in defending her dream, it lay in proving that her values could stand strong against the relentless forces of business strategy. How could she prepare for the escalating challenge that awaited? Emma stood in front of the mirror, critically assessing her appearance. The unyielding reflection stared back at her, impotent against the storm brewing within. She ran a hand through her hair, pulling it back tightly, anchoring herself with the firm grip, a symbol of the focus she so desperately sought. Beneath her calm exterior, her heart raced with anticipation and concern. What would tonight bring? Would Jack finally acknowledge her vision, or would this meeting turn into yet another battlefield? Arriving at the chosen venue, Emma took a moment to breathe in the atmosphere. A stylish bar, bustling with life, yet each conversation felt like a cacophony against her singular purpose. She felt out of place amongst the laughter and toasts, wondering if her own ambition would be seen as an invitation or a threat. As she spotted Jack leaning casually against the bar, a drink in hand, Emma felt a cocktail of anxiety and determination swirl in her stomach. He wore his confidence like a tailored suit, but she refused to let it intimidate her any longer. She was done being the timid player in a game designed to get ahead. "Good to see you, Emma," Jack greeted, his tone casual yet assessing as he sipped his drink. "I thought we could finalize some details." "Of course," she replied, keeping her voice steady. "But I'd like to start with the patient experience angle first. It's integral to what I proposed." Jack raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued. "You know, numbers matter. You can't neglect the bottom line. What makes you think that emotional stories can sway the board?" Her chest tightened, but Emma summoned her resolve. "Because they humanize our data, Jack. They make the numbers relatable. When we show how our strategies truly impact lives, we frame the conversation in a way that resonates. The board needs to understand and feel our mission, not just see it on a spreadsheet." He studied her for a moment, the tension between them palpable. "You think anecdotes can outshine fiscal concerns?" "Absolutely." Emma felt a rush of adrenaline. Imagine guiding the board through real events instead of just figures. When they see how a simple decision could change lives, it becomes personal. That's powerful. Jack leaned against the bar, the casualness faltering as he absorbed her words. "You're betting a lot on that, Emma. We'll need measurable metrics to back your narrative." "Metrics that reflect patient sentiment," she countered. "Imagine a presentation fueled by both data and stories. It could spark a cultural shift, one that aligns us more closely with our patients." Her enthusiasm radiated, challenging his skepticism. Perhaps she was reaching too far, yet she felt an undeniable charge in articulating her vision. Each point she pressed ignited a flicker of belief in her own stance. Jack hesitated, his facade slipping. For a fleeting moment, she read the vulnerability behind his eyes. His battle against the status quo mirrored her own. Emma seized the opportunity, leaning in slightly. "This is our chance. If we push forward with both numbers and narrative, we can cultivate not just a business strategy but a mission that everyone buys into. The board has to know we are more than just an organization, we are a movement." A long silence stretched between them. Emma's heart thudded loudly in her chest. Was Jack ready to embrace the shift? Just as he opened his mouth to respond, his phone buzzed insistently, breaking the moment. He glanced at the screen, his expression darkening. "Sorry, I need to take this," he said, stepping away. As he walked away, Emma felt a swell of anxiety and exhilaration. Had she planted a seed? Determination washed over her like ice water. The stakes were rising, and the path forward felt narrower and more treacherous. With Jack momentarily distracted, she understood that time was of the essence. How could she harness this moment to further solidify her vision and rally the support needed amidst the mounting opposition? In a swirl of thoughts, she realized she had to act swiftly, but how could she do so without overstepping or appearing desperate? The answers hung tantalizingly close, and yet she felt the momentum shift again. As she watched Jack's engaged conversation with another board member across the room, a question simmered in her mind: was she pushing for change, or was she merely playing into the hands of those wielding control? Fingers trembling, Emma found herself wishing she had another chance at that conversation, an opportunity to solidify her stance without distraction. She clenched her jaw, preparing to navigate the next round of challenges that lay ahead. The realization settled heavily: she had to cultivate not only her ideas but also allies within the board. And that required a bold step beyond her comfort zone. Could she muster the courage to rally support and challenge the deeply entrenched dynamics that threatened to undermine her mission? The answer waited just beyond her reach, hidden within the chaos of the moment. Emma steeled herself for the inevitable confrontation, a surge of defiance swelling within her. The stakes had never felt higher. Emma's mind churned as she stood by the bar, the cacophony of laughter and clinking glasses around her fading into a dull roar. Jack was engaged in conversation, seemingly unfazed by her endeavor to shift the narrative. She felt the urgency of the moment pressing down on her. She couldn't let this encounter slip away and leave her with nothing but what-ifs. As she scanned the room, her gaze landed on silhouettes animatedly discussing strategies near the corner. Each group seemed insatiable for approval from one another, a cycle of validation locked in place by their professional hierarchies. Emma realized she had to break through this wall of complacency, but how? Rallying support was not simply about being present, it required strategy and influence. Taking a deep breath, Emma approached the nearest cluster. They were mid-discussion, enthused by a shared sense of purpose that clearly eluded her. "Excuse me," she interjected, projecting confidence as she addressed one of the associates she knew. "Mind if I join in?" The three heads turned, eyebrows raised, and Emma felt the weight of their scrutiny. "Actually, we were discussing the new metrics Jack mentioned earlier," one of them said, eyes narrowing. "Yes, metrics are important," she replied, keeping her voice steady despite the tension. "But what if we also considered the human element? The personal stories that bring those metrics to life?" A moment of silence hung in the air, as they exchanged glances, a mixture of confusion and intrigue. Emma could sense their skepticism but also saw sparks of interest flickering in their eyes. One of them, Sarah, finally spoke up. "That's a bold perspective. But how do you propose we integrate that without losing sight of the financial reality?" Emma's heart raced at the opening. "By demonstrating that patient experience translates to loyalty, which translates to revenue. If we can gather testimonials, real examples of success, it becomes a narrative that the board cannot ignore. We can paint a picture where profits rise alongside patient satisfaction." For the first time, they seemed genuinely thoughtful rather than dismissive. Emma seized this moment, hoping to solidify the bond. "I'm planning a presentation that highlights this. I could use your insights and support. Together, we can reshape how our organization approaches strategy." As she spoke, Emma felt a flicker of power rising in her chest. This was her chance to connect, to create a coalition. They began to nod, possibly for the first time considering an angle that wasn't purely numerical. Jack returned, briefly assessing the scene unfolding at the bar. Emma could feel his gaze like pressure against her back, an anchor weighing her down but also fueling her tenacity. "What is going on here?" he asked, a tone of protectiveness lacing his words. Emma turned to him, affirmation fueling her voice. "We're discussing how to humanize our approach to metrics. Sarah and we want to present a new vision." Jack's expression darkened, suspicion etched on his features. "Are you sure presenting personal stories won't undermine our credibility?" "Not if we do it the right way," Emma insisted, her resolve hardening. "We'll show the board that emotional investment can yield exceptional outcomes." He hesitated, clearly not convinced, but something shifted in his demeanor. Emma had crossed a threshold she couldn't return from. She was actively engaging in the conversation rather than merely observing. With her newfound allies signaling encouragement, Emma felt the tides beginning to turn. For the first time, a coalition was forming around her vision. But with Jack's lingering skepticism, she knew the battle was far from over. A sense of clarity washed over her. This moment was not just about convincing Jack, it was also about solidifying her voice among the peers who could provide tangible support. As the discussions continued, Emma realized that stepping out of her comfort zone would require not only bravery but also an unwavering commitment to that vision. Then, the group was approached by another influential board member, who casually remarked about the budget cuts looming on the horizon. Emma's stomach tightened. She could feel the danger thrumming like a live wire. Jack's voice cut through the air again, and as he engaged, Emma caught sight of opportunity. Here was a moment to galvanize their intentions and navigate the conversation into a fertile ground of alliances. Could she exploit this new dynamic to further advocate her perspective against financial skepticism? The challenge loomed ahead, and the stakes continued to climb. Emma straightened her posture, ready to face whatever came next, knowing the path to power was as treacherous as it was promising. The questions echoed in her mind. How could she stand firm in her ideals while wrestling with the realities of corporate expectations? And who would emerge as her newfound allies when the dust settled? The air around her buzzed with potential, and she sensed that clarity was deadly close, yet still tantalizingly out of reach. Emma felt adrenaline pumping through her veins as she positioned herself strategically within the swirl of conversations. The shadows of doubt still loomed. Jack's skepticism was like a weight she couldn't entirely shake off. Yet she pressed onward, acutely aware that this was a critical juncture in her trajectory, both personal and professional. Facing the board member, Nathan, she seized the opportunity to make her case more emphatically. Nathan, with the potential budget cuts, it's crucial that we not only save costs but also enhance the investment in patient experience. This could mitigate any adverse effects on long-term revenue. He raised an eyebrow, intrigued but cautious. Emma sensed a flicker of curiosity mingled with the nagging suspicion that often accompanied discussions of budget constraints. You think testimonials can compete with financial numbers? It's not just about the numbers, it's about the story we tell, Emma replied, her voice steady but urgent. If we can prove how improved patient experiences lead to tangible financial benefits, our numbers could enhance, rather than detract from the overall picture. The room grew quieter, the laughter replaced by the hum of curiosity. She had momentarily captured their attention, which was a victory worth noting. With eyes trained on Nathan, Emma decided that vulnerability could amplify her resolve. I've gathered some data over the past few months. Actual case studies from departments where improved patient interactions correlate with better outcomes. Jack's expression shifted subtly, like a cloud passing over the sun. Perhaps he was re-evaluating his stance, recognizing the meticulously gathered information as an asset rather than a liability. Yet an insistent voice in her head warned her. Would he ever truly believe in her vision? This uncertainty felt like a shadow lurking just outside the flickering spotlight she'd just stepped into. She pushed it aside, channeling that uncertainty into determination. After all, she was standing on her own 2 feet, making her case, and drawing others in however tenuously into her orbit. As the conversation deepened, Emma maneuvered toward Jack once more, hoping to reignite the smoldering spark between them. Together, we need to address both the emotional and financial narratives that underpin our strategy. If you see the potential in this partnership, we can champion a different paradigm altogether. Jack crossed his arms, scrutinizing her like a chess piece that had just moved unexpectedly. It's risky, Emma. You're suggesting we divert focus from hard metrics, and that can't be taken lightly. Exactly, she countered, her voice lower and more assertive. Taking that risk could allow us to reshape perceptions internally, and externally as well. Let us lead by example rather than waiting for the board to dictate our narrative. The struggle to change minds would be tumultuous, yet Emma felt a shift in the air, the kind that signified the pendulum swinging cautiously towards her favor. She could almost taste the pivotal moment that was slowly fracturing the walls of resistance, yet the stakes felt heightened. As conversations dwindled into whispers around her, the clarity she had been fighting for materialized. Presenting the human element in her organization meant embracing emotional truths and challenging the status quo. It was no longer just about influencing Jack, it was about carving a unique space for herself within this competitive realm. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a familiar figure. Alice, an executive known for her sharp wit and sometimes blistering critiques, was observing their discussion intently. What she gleaned from that viewpoint could tilt the balance in unimaginable ways. Emma straightened her composure, sensing a new challenge ahead. This could be an opening or an obstacle, depending on how adeptly she navigated both her relationship with Jack and the scrutiny of others. As Alice approached, something within Emma crystallized, a fierce determination to not only advocate for her vision but to cement her role as a key player in the evolving dynamics of their industry. The moment was palpable, one where everything hung in the balance. How much risk was she willing to take, and would it pay off? As the conversation swelled, she braced herself for Alice's inevitable probing, knowing that the day's revelations could very well define the trajectory of her career. Would she be ready to confront Alice's critical eye? With the stakes rising, Emma's heart raced in anticipation of what came next. As Alice closed the distance between them, Emma's stomach twisted into knots. Alice had a reputation for dismantling arguments with surgical precision. This was her moment to either solidify her standing or irreparably fracture it. Would Alice's perception of her idea validate Emma's ambition or obliterate it? "Emma," Alice began, her voice smooth yet laced with an edge that hinted at challenge. "I couldn't help but overhear your passionate plea. It's refreshing, certainly, but practicality must reign. You're delving into emotional waters where metrics are the lighthouse guiding our decisions." Pushing past the instinct to retreat, Emma steadied her breath. "But Alice, what if those waters are precisely what we need to navigate? Enhancing patient experience isn't just a foggy notion, it's a strategic investment. And investments require a compelling narrative to drive them." Alice's eyes narrowed slightly, intrigued yet skeptical. "A narrative can be manipulated, Emma. What's stopping someone from twisting those testimonials into a facade?" Emma felt that familiar pang of insecurity mixed with the adrenaline coursing through her. "What's preventing that from happening with our numbers? They can be just as misleading. The key is transparency. If we can openly share both the positives and the negatives of the data while focusing on the human connection, we won't just meet budget constraints, will exceed them." Alice observed her closely, and for a fleeting moment, Emma caught a glimmer of respect in her eyes, yet the sharpness in them remained. The scrutiny was palpable, and Emma fought to uphold her confidence. "You talk about human connections as though they're quantifiable like a dollar sign. What if they lead to misallocation of resources? We could end up jeopardizing critical services." Emma's thoughts raced. Was she risking everything by pursuing this angle? That question loomed ominously, yet deep within, a flicker of her resolve ignited. "But Alice, isn't jeopardizing the human experience already a foregone conclusion if we only chase the metrics? What are we without the stories that shape those very numbers?" Alice appeared unmoved, but a hint of consideration crossed her face. "You truly believe you can change perceptions with stories?" "Yes," Emma replied, her conviction hardening. "If we cultivate loyalty through extraordinary experiences, not only will we retain our patients, but they'll also become our advocates. That's how we change the narrative, and that's how we ensure profitability in the long run." Emma's heart pounded as she realized that she was standing her ground not just for her ideas but for her competence. This was her opportunity to transform herself from a voice in the crowd to a catalyst for change within the organization. "There's an elegance to your argument," Alice finally conceded, a smile creeping into her expression. "But implementation remains the critical hurdle. Would you be willing to pilot a project? Prove your theory? Because frankly, it's going to take more than eloquence to convince the board." Emma's pulse quickened. A pilot project could be her platform to not just validate her mission but also showcase her ability to lead. "Absolutely," she replied, her voice steady. "I can assemble a team to demonstrate these principles effectively. We can start small and expand from there." Alice's nod signified she was considering the possibility, yet the challenge still loomed. "You'll need to convince Jack to be your ally. If he sees merit in your plan, the board might follow his lead." An unexpected sense of dread washed over Emma at the mention of Jack. Their previous conversations replayed in her mind his skepticism, the walls he had built. Would he support her, or would he remain entrenched in his cynicism? "I'll speak with him," she stated, determined to forge ahead. His insight could prove invaluable. As they concluded their discussion, Emma felt a rush of adrenaline, a spark igniting within her. She was preparing to take calculated risks, to stake her reputation on her vision. But the looming question remained. Could she convince Jack to embrace this journey alongside her, or would his doubts extinguish the flame she had begun to nurture? The balance of her future weighed heavily on that decision. Taking a deep breath, she steeled herself for the confrontation with Jack ahead, knowing that the outcome could define not only her professional identity but also the potential future of their projects. The time had come to face her greatest challenge. Emma entered the boardroom, a space that had pivoted from intimidating to invigorating. The air crackled with possibilities as she set up for her presentation. No longer did she see herself as merely a nurse advocating for a hospital, she was a leader pioneering a new narrative. This transformation wasn't just for her benefit, it was a journey to empower the countless patients whose stories echoed behind every figure. She recalled her conversation with Alice. The notion of a pilot project swirled in her mind. The opportunity to blend strategic metrics with empathy-driven initiatives anchored her resolve. Today was her moment to prove that the soul of healthcare wasn't just in the numbers but in the lives intertwined within them. As the members of the board filed in, Emma's heart raced. Their skepticism was palpable, but she had gathered the courage she needed. This would be an alliance defined by mutual respect and a shared vision, no longer just about capital but also about compassion. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice steady, resolute. "Today, we're not just discussing numbers. We are unveiling a blueprint that integrates patient experience with fiscal sustainability." With each slide she presented, real patient testimonials anchored her statistics. Voices of hope intertwined with hard data. Emma was not solely advocating for a project, but rallying for a movement that emphasized human connection within healthcare. She observed Jack in the corner of her eye, his expression inscrutable. Had she managed to address the skepticism? Each question now felt like a thread weaving her narrative tighter around her vision. The fight against the looming budget cuts now transformed into a testament of resilience and innovation. As she concluded, Emma felt a swell of triumph. "With your support, we can initiate this pilot project, one that not only champions patient stories but also illustrates how they correlate with revenue growth," she stated, her gaze shifting back to Jack. She needed him on her side. "Together, we can set a precedent, leading not just in profits but as pioneers for compassionate healthcare." The room fell silent. And then, Jack finally spoke. "Emma, this is an ambitious plan. I admit your approach intrigues me." His gaze remained fixed upon her, prompting anticipation to flutter within her chest. "But we need to build the framework solidly, we can't sacrifice metrics for emotional storytelling." "I agree, Jack," she asserted, feeling his doubt weigh as a challenge rather than a roadblock. "That's why this project integrates both worlds. We won't sacrifice one for the other, we'll transform the narrative by demonstrating how patient experience and strategic growth can coexist." Board members exchanged nods. Emma's words had begun to take root, igniting glimmers of hope among them. Jack continued, "If we do this, we need complete buy-in. We can't start on an emotional note and then fall back on business rationale alone when it becomes uncomfortable." "Yes. That's exactly what I'm proposing, Jack," Emma responded confidently. "Let us build a pilot project that demonstrates the measurable impact of improved patient experiences over 3 months. We'll track everything rigorously, ensuring true synergy between compassion and corporate strategy." The atmosphere shifted, and she saw Jack's doubts begin to ebb. The foundations of alliance were slowly reshaping beneath her. Finally, board members began chiming in with enthusiasm, some proposing their insights on potential partners and community involvement. Emma felt a surge of empowerment, the collective energy was palpable. As discussions deepened surrounding the pilot project, Emma caught Jack's eye and held it, recognizing a mutual respect that had grown between them. "Are we in this together?" she asked, her voice steady. Jack nodded slowly, "Yes, Emma. If we're going to navigate this terrain, we'll do it together." With that simple agreement, Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had not only transformed herself from a mere nurse advocating for her hospital, but from a professional on the precipice of self-discovery to a steadfast leader shaping the future of healthcare. The pilot project was a reality now, one that would bring both metrics and human stories to the forefront. She had proven her strategic vision, bridging the gulf between emotional and fiscal accountability effortlessly. As she left the meeting room, a new confidence coursed through her veins. She had achieved not just recognition but respect. Emma had become the embodiment of a leader capable of adapting her mission amid challenges without losing her core beliefs. With tangible plans in motion, she was out to redefine the narrative of healthcare one story at a time. It wasn't simply about survival anymore, it was about thriving. Now, as you resonate with Emma's journey of transformation and personal growth, make sure that you actively support our content by subscribing immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leaving a like now to feed the algorithm and continue sharing these powerful narratives. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending below, your opinions matter. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss more stories that inspire and challenge us to push forward. Don't wait even one more second to share, let us inspire others.